Hello everyone. By now we're all aware that Apple's next event will happen on September the 14th when, surprise surprise, the new iPhones will be introduced. However, coming alongside the new iPhones will be the production version of iOS 15, which many of us will be running on our devices as soon as it becomes available. Now, I thought I would take a look at how one of my most favorite iPhones, the iPhone SE 2020, can actually run iOS 15 just prior to release, and see what we can actually expect come next week. Now, I know we're still in beta, iOS 15 is actually still a beta release at this point, but we need to be aware that we're just a week away from final reception, so I doubt that there are still performance issues that would affect the OS overall. So first, let's make sure I don't have any further updates that I need to install, and yes, iOS 15 beta is up to date. Going through the menu, I don't think there's going to be any sort of slowdown. I mean, even older iPhones can easily run iOS 15 without major slowdowns or issues or anything like that. So we're also going to try some synthetic benchmarks courtesy of Geekbench 5. And first we're going to run the CPU test. And we have the results here. 1323 in the single core score and 2951 multi-core score. These are pretty decent scores. The phone hasn't even gotten hot while running the benchmark, so that's a pretty good indication that performance is still rather solid. So let's compare how these scores look against some other iPhones. So right off the bat, we see that it's a little bit off compared to the 12 Pro Max, but that shouldn't be a surprise. The Pro Max has the newer A14 chip. But again, these scores look pretty competitive against iPhone 11 and iPhone 11 Pro Max even. And it's still mind-boggling to me that a cheap device right now can hang with devices that were over $1,000 just a couple of years ago. So the performance in terms of CPU scores in Geekbench 5 is still incredibly solid here. Nothing to worry about. And now let's give it a shot on the compute test as well and see how it handles that one as well. And we have compute score results as well. 7,500, which is a very decent score. We're gonna see right away against other A13 Bionic chip devices that this is still rather competitive. So my device is a little bit faster than the average, but we're gonna take the average as the reference point. And again, it looks mightily competitive against devices that are running the same A13 Bionic chip. Mind you, you need to remember that the iPhone SE 2020 only has 3 GB of RAM as opposed to the iPhone 11, which has 4 GB. So the performance is still really good. Let's try a handful of games as well. I don't expect any sort of stuttering or any sort of issues here whatsoever. The phone should behave pretty normal. I mean, there's no games right now in the Apple Store that will really cause any sort of issues for the iPhone SE 2020 because it's still very competitive in terms of performance. It still has that A13 Bionic chip, which, yeah, it's no longer the latest and greatest chip in a phone, but still is rather competitive. It's also going to be pretty decent in terms of efficiency, and I expect it to be really good for the next several years at least. Let's remember that in benchmarks at least, the difference between the A13 and the A14 wasn't tremendous, and all indications seem to point out to the fact that the A15 over the A14 will have kind of the same results, so maybe a 15 to 20% increase in performance, which is no longer that stunning in terms of year-over-year increase in performance. I mean, we're long past the point where a new phone would have twice the performance of its predecessor, no matter what the marketing teams say whenever a new product is released, no matter if it's Android or an iPhone. And while these chips are faster than their predecessors, that doesn't mean that the predecessors are trash right away. And the A13 kind of symbolizes that really well. I mean, there's talk that the A13 will make its way on the new iPad as well, the new base iPad. So this means that the Apple views the chip as still rather competitive. Now, how about the iPhone SE 2020? Would I still recommend it this late in its life cycle and now in basically fall 2021? First of all, if you're planning to get a new iPhone in the next couple of weeks or so, just wait, be patient. Just watch my previous video that I did on this a couple of days back. Basically, now is the worst possible time to buy any sort of iPhone. The SE 2020 doesn't make any sort of exception to that. whenever we have new iPhones being released, older models tend to lose a little bit of value on the used market as well. And if you're planning to get it brand new, I think the SE 2020 is still a fantastic model, but critically, you need to wait and see exactly how the lineup around it looks like. I mean, my assumption is that the iPhone 11 is going to be discounted in price by Apple, and basically it's going to, if it takes the place of the iPhone XR in Apple's lineup, this means the phone will be this will mean the iPhone 11 is basically just $100 more expensive than the SE, and at that point I can't honestly recommend you get the SE. I just recommend you'd wait it out a little bit, save some extra money, and get the 11, which is a better phone overall. Regardless how much I love the SE 2020, I mean, it's still a great device in my eyes, but yeah, you have to hand it to the 11. It's a better phone overall, much better cameras, much larger battery. The battery of the SE 2020 is its Achilles heel. It's actually one of the worst points in the phone, and the iPhone 11 is a class above that at the very least, and it's a phone that will last you throughout the day as opposed to the SE. Now, for those who have the SE 2020, this is still going to be a very good phone. It's going to run iOS 15 without any sort of issues. You're getting all the features and everything that's being introduced in iOS 15. I still love it very much. I always liked the shape of this old school kind of look for Apple right now. I mean, it's not that modern, and the display is a little bit small by modern, and the display is kind of small by modern standards. But I always liked this look, and I still like this device overall. So, as usual, thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.